Oh my God, I got the new best story ever. So anyway, people want to move up. They owned the house for a while. They want to buy a new one. We are looking left and right and left and right. And you know what? It happens that the budget they're on doesn't support the project. And it's really tight. So what are the options when somebody decides they need to move up to a house? And what are the options they can take not to move up and still get what they want? Stick around and find out. Well, glad you're back. Now, what we're going to be talking about is moving up and what the options of moving up or moving down are. With me in the studio, my buddy John Thompson from First Priority Financial.
Yep.
John, do people move up?
Absolutely.
Do they have money for it?
Some do and some don't.
Some do it. You know what? I hate finding out after the fact.
It's a bummer when you're in your position to find out at the wrong time that they can't move up. You're right.
So that's why I love you, because the fact is when a client comes in and wants to do something, the best thing to start, the best place to start at is their financials.
Absolutely.
So what do you suggest a person does when going into the direction of moving up?
Well, they got to step back and do the basics like other people do when they're thinking about buying a home or not buying a home. They got to get their paperwork together. Meet with a financial person like myself in the mortgage business, or their financial advisor, or a CPA maybe, but whatever, someone who understands the finances and says, is this a good idea or not?
Absolutely.
Start to look at their budget, their cash flow, and those sorts of things, and see if it's going to make sense to move up.
Do you usually work with their accountants, or do they ever involve their accountants in the decision?
Oh, absolutely. We work with our accountants quite a bit, but do they often involve them in the decision? That's a different question. Not always. Okay. We kind of believe in a whole team approach, and so we think that really every consumer, every client should have multiple people on their team. They need to have a good real estate professional, a mortgage advisor, a financial advisor, a tax professional, insurance, all those people. And if people don't have them, good guys like you and me try and tie them together, right?
Absolutely.
That's what we do.
So John, what are some other things that a person would need to think about when moving up?
Yeah. I'll tell you one of the really key things that's happened in this current marketplace, since all this financial disaster has happened in the last 4 years or so. The guidelines have changed pretty dramatically for how people can move up their homes. Now, if you're just going to sell your home, you have equity in your home, and you're going to move up and take that money with you, great, usually not an issue, assuming you qualify for the new home. Where the issues come out is when you want to retain that old home. Either you want to buy the old home, buy a new home and not have sold the old home first, or you want to turn it into a rental maybe. Yeah. That's where it becomes kind of issues. And
that's kind of a good move to do as well.
Well, I always endorse the idea of trying to build wealth through real estate. So if someone can afford to hold on to their current home and turn it into a rental and buy a new home and they can afford all that, I think it's a wonderful idea, assuming they want to be a landlord.
So what's the complexity of the deal?
So the complexity comes here. So it used to be that if you had an existing home, what they call a departing residence, that you could basically rent out that home and offset most of the payment on that home and then qualify for the new home. So it wouldn't really be that big a burden in your financial picture. What's happened now is that lenders are requiring a minimum of 30% equity. So now you've got to have 30% equity in your old home in order to be able to rent it out and use that rental income to help you qualify for the new home.
And that might be a challenge right now.
You know why? Because if you have bought homes in the last 5, 6, 7 years, unless you put a really large down payment, they don't tend to have 30% equity anymore. And so the problem is if you don't have 30% equity, you've got to be able to afford both your new home and your old home at the same time. And there are a few people who can do that, but not a lot.
Okay. So you're talking, in the particular case you just mentioned, where people can actually afford to keep their old residence and move up, you're talking more than they're switching into the role of investor.
That's right, yeah.
So, investors, you got money, you have a reason why you can hold to it. You probably have money to play with it in this market, and why not? However, what if they don't have the budget?
Yeah,
and
if they can't afford that and they really want to do something else. Well, we've come across a couple of situations recently that I think are really intriguing that probably could not have existed also until this most recent crisis. And what I'm talking about is people really looking a little deeper at, do I buy up or do I simply stay where I am?
Okay.
And maybe turn the home that I have into what I really want to achieve up here. And it can be done now. And again, it couldn't be done in the past because there's new financing things out there that didn't exist until a couple of years ago.
I just had a few clients ask about it.
Yeah, so cool. So I'll share with you a quick story about Blake and Jill. I mean, Blake and Jill are a great couple. They live here in the San Gabriel Valley. And, you know, they have those little things that start to kind of run around the house and take up a lot of room and make noise, and they smell sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about dogs, I'm talking about kids,
no.
right?
The ones that are waiting to take
your money and your food,
right.
and yeah, those things. So they have a couple of kids, so they need more room, right? They need more room. So they've been looking. They looked for probably a year and a half with their real estate, you know, their advisor, and out there looking at stuff, and they were going to have to spend a lot more money than they can really afford to do. But they were really on the edge. Do we do this or do we not do this? And so finally, when I connected with them, we sat down, we did a full financial analysis. We went through their existing mortgage, all their existing debt. We looked at what it would take to buy a new home, how much money they'd have to liquidate, because they didn't have a lot of equity in their home.
Right.
So they'd have to pull money from somewhere else. Let's look at that money and what are your payments going to be if you go out and buy this larger home that fits your growing family's needs. Versus, you know, keeping the existing home and going out and finding what it costs to build what you want. Right? So that's kind of what they did. I said, here's your homework. You know, I really need the numbers to know what you're going to have to spend to build the house you want. And they went out and they talked to a couple of contractors, and it was a big number, right? I was kind of surprised when they came back. But, you know, at the end of the day,
what they want, right?
It depends what they want. But they were able to kind of get everything they wanted in this new home. And again, because of this program, which this program was administered by HUD, and it's called an FHA 203K, and it's simply a program that allows you to do a home renovation and a mortgage and get all the money to do construction. It's really one of the only construction loans that you can get in the market today that sort of the average person can get.
Really?
What I mean by that, there are people who have a lot of money can get construction loans, but you know, people like you and me, you know, we're kind of stuck. So you know, you can use this renovation program to do that. So once they had the numbers on how to build the home.
Is there any specific requirement to qualify for that program?
The primary requirement is it has to be owner occupied. You know, it can't be an investor, so you can't be out rehabbing homes and doing those sorts of things.
So it just applies to this sample that we were talking about.
Exactly. So you really got to be living in the home. The other restriction is the loan amount. It can go up to about $729,000. So a pretty large loan amount here in the San Gabriel Valley.
A nice addition.
In their case, they got so think about this. You know, they already like the neighborhood. Their kids are friends with the people in the neighborhood. They kind of want to go to the neighborhood, but if they could just get the house they wanted where they are, at the end of the day, it was better for them. And so that's what they ended up doing. They had remodeled the entire house, the entire interior kitchen. They got all their Viking stoves and all the cool stuff they wanted. You know, the extra bedroom, the master suite with the cool jacuzzi tub, all those kind of things. It was beautiful. So they got it all done. At the end of the day, from the financial perspective, which is where my head stays, you know, it was actually cheaper than going out and buying that big next step up home. They were able to keep their cash, keep their kids in the same neighborhood.
And I think that part that you just mentioned is for some people that don't want to get away from the neighborhood.
That's right.
It's priceless. And you know, actually thinking about it, you know, the money, even if it was the same amount of money moving to a new neighborhood and changing the lifestyle and changing the friends and whatnot.
A lot of stuff goes with that, right?
Yeah.
You know, one other element of that I think is interesting that we kind of set them on a track for. They haven't done it yet, but they're going to do it. They were going to have to liquidate a bunch of money in order to be able to get a down payment for that next home. I said, okay, you want it? And they kind of liked the idea of keeping their home as a rental, but the numbers just didn't work anywhere. So at the end of the day, we said, why don't you take some of their cash and go and buy a rental that actually cash flows in a different marketplace outside of our local area here, that actually cash flows, and buy one or two little rental properties that actually give you positive cash flow.
Absolutely.
So that's, you know, maybe next year or the year after.
Cash cows.
It all works.
Right. Yeah, no, that's excellent. So for this information, other information, and from any guest on our show, and including the information that you can find from John and I and anybody else, you can get a copy of this video at visiting KGEM, but also going to the website myrealestatehq.com and clicking the little icon, Real Estate Junkies. So hope to see you there. Get all the information you can. Never go into these deals. These are your biggest deals in your life without proper consulting. John, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick.
Hope to see you again.
Always a pleasure.